Today we are discussing organization development. We will cover this topic after we have understood about management of change. Organization change means change for better. The modern approach to management of change, according to Fred Luthans, refers to development of human resources as part of organization development. So, OD is total and organization wide activity. It is directed at change of organizational atmosphere, and the tools it applies are taken mainly from behavioral sciences. Do you understand what is the meaning of behavioral sciences? Behavioral sciences are the subjects which include sociology, psychology, anthropology and some other social sciences, and a group of that is referred to as behavioral sciences. Behavior in the social context, and that becomes extremely important because we have to manage organization where people are the main resources. So, OD is a response, organization development we call as OD. OD is a response to change, a complex educational strategy to change the beliefs, attitudes, values and structure of organizations so that they can better adapt to new techniques, markets and challenges and the dizzying rate of change itself. So, we are covering today a special type of change management, that is organization development. OD is a long range effort to improve an organization's problem solving and renewal processes, particularly through a more effective and collaborative management strategy, which includes organization culture with a special emphasis on the culture of formal system work teams with assistance of a change agent. Change agent, you understand, a manager, some we can say consultant could be a change agent. So, a catalyst and the use of theory and technology of applied behavioral science, including action research, is referred to as organization development as a discipline. So, the definitions of organization development, we will now look at that. Let us see how various thinkers and authors have defined organization development. Organization development is an effort about planned, organization-wide, managed from top, increased organization effectiveness and health through planned intervention and processes using behavioral science knowledge. So, when we combine all these, we call it as the organization development strategy. Okay? So, organization development is a response to change, a complex educational strategy intended to change the beliefs and attitudes. This we have already seen and discussed short while ago, and this can be defined as a planned and sustained effort to apply behavioral science for systems improvement using reflective self-analytic methods. So, organization development is a process of planned change. We have discussed planned change, natural change in our last lecture. So, this is a process of planned change of an organization's culture, from which perhaps we can avoid the examination of social processes, especially decision making, planning and communication, to one which is institutionalized and perhaps legitimized in this process, in this examination. So, more recent definitions of organization developments are here. Some authors have said enhancing congruence between organizational structure, processes, strategy, people and culture is the theme of organization development. Others have said developing new and creative organizational solutions. Yet another group of people, they have said developing the organization's self-renewing capacity. You understand? Self-renewing, that means everything that is growing, a time comes when you have, you can call it a stability though, but then there is a possibility that unless we develop, there may be stagnation as well. So, once an organization is old and stagnation starts creeping in, obviously we cannot achieve the success and the competitive advantage in our business, in our organization. So, we need the self renewal, okay, for which we would like people to feel fresh. So, the new ideas and so the development of organization, which of course will also have management development as part of it. So, organization development is an organizational process for understanding and improving any and all substantive processes of an organization, and this may develop for performing any task and pursuing the objectives. Okay. And this is a process for improving the processes. That's what the OD has basically sought to be approximately, say in the earlier times we can say approximately 25 years ago. But we are changing. As change process, even the OD strategies are changing now. And organization development is a set of behavioral science based theories, values, strategies and techniques aimed at the planned change of an organizational work, which we are setting for the purpose of enhancing technical development, individual development, improving organizational performance through the alteration of organizational members on job behavior. So, we take the members into consideration, we take the technology into consideration, we take the culture into consideration and try to design OD strategies so that we can cope up with the changing demands of the world. Organization development is a system which is system-wide in fact, system-wide application of behavioral science knowledge to plan development and reinforcement of organizational strategies, structures and processes for improving the effectiveness of the whole organization. And this is planned process of change in an organization's culture through utilization of behavioral science techniques, research and theory. Organization development is a long-term effort which leads to and which is supported by the top management people, and this is to improve an organization's visioning, empowerment, learning, problem solving and some ongoing processes, and all this is done as an ongoing process through collaborations, maybe some special emphasis on the culture. In fact, we can talk about the work teams and the other team configurations, utilizing the consultant, facilitator and certain theories and technology of applied behavioral sciences, and in which action research becomes an important part. We will be talking about action research in a little more details just in short while from now. So, are we understanding that organization development is a planned change strategy and which takes into consideration all aspects of an organization, may it be people oriented, technology related or the culture of the organization, because this helps us in coping with the competition, the world competition, the business competition, also survival and growth. Some of these aspects we have touched upon in some of our earlier lectures also. So, this definition, this contains elements that we believe what are important for organization development. To summarize, here are some of the primary distinguishing characteristics of organization development. The things that I have already spoken to you about, just very briefly I will summarize these. That organization development is a unique organizational improvement strategy that has emerged late in 1950s and early 1960s. That was the time it emerged. And then there is no looking back, we are going on, we are talking about HRD as a great strategy for the organizations in this millennium. So, organization development is about people, about how to function and how to manage organizations. And OD is also about the planned change as we discussed, and that is getting individuals, teams, organizations to function better. Planned change involves, well, of course, common sense, hard work, applied diligently over time, a systematic goal-oriented approach and valid technology, knowledge, dynamics of organizations and how to manage and change them. Change means the new state of things. We have discussed that in our last lecture. It is different from the old state of things, and change is omnipresent is will be one of the few perhaps constants in the late 90s and also in the next century. And most demands for change come from outside the organization, from say something like we can mention government agencies, there are competitors, new technologies, there are customers, there are market forces and the larger society. To name a few, the external factors which are impinging on the needs for organization development. So, nothing is really constant, ever changing. However, we also have some of the issues which are coming from within the organization, which may also make an impact on our thinking on the organization development. Sometimes demand for change might come from within the organization, and a new chief executive, for example, joins. He may expect a different way of managing people or things, or there may be an obsolete product or services, or a new strategic direction, declining profitability of the organization itself, or an increasingly diverse workforce. It is necessary to understand change and plan change to understand organization development. In some of the earlier lectures, we have discussed diversity at the place of work as one of the challenging issues for managers of today. We have also talked about the personality profiles of managers. We have discussed the motivational strategies, and we have also discussed the technology and policy, manpower interaction for running an organization in the earlier part of the course. So, when we are looking at OD, organization development, we cannot leave any of these aspects alone. We have to see all these in combination, how they are functioning and how they are demanding the change for the functioning of the organization. So, the magnitude of change can be large or small, and in terms of scope it can affect many elements of the organization or only a few elements. It can be fast, it could be abrupt, it could be revolutionary, it could be very slow, evolutionary, any type. But whatever it is, we have to be ready, we have to be prepared to actually cope up with that and design our system, take that challenge through organization development. So, the new state of things can have entirely different nature from the old state of things. Say the fundamental quantum or second order change, or the new state of things can have some nature with new characteristics or features. Could be incremental first order change, or it could be the facet. It is important because they can call for different actions from the leaders and the OD practitioners. there are OD practitioners, they are the consultants working in the area of organization development, and the leaders can give their views, and many managers themselves can give these views. Leaders, when we say, we are using the word, like the managers as leaders as well. So we can have these issues coming up from any of these persons, and they can manage that better. Organization development is all about change then, we have discussed that, and the early organization development efforts primarily addressed first order change, making we can say moderate adjustments to the organization and about its people, about its processes. But then sometimes we have take up the challenge in a very big way. So organization development is an effort. It is planned. It is organization wide. It is managed from the top. It increases organization's effectiveness and health. You understand, the effectiveness we have already discussed in some of our earlier discussions. When we say organizational effectiveness, we mean the survival and growth of the organization in today's changing world. And when we say organizational health, we mean that the health of the organization is good and sound in terms of that it is highly productive, performance, quality, productivity are at its peak. There is no absenteeism, there are no accidents, the work culture, the quality of life is very positive, attrition rates are not very high. Some of these issues we can put in as some of the parameters of the organizational health. There is very good interpersonal relationship, there is very positive motivation, no frustrations, no dissatisfactions. Okay, some of these issues we can take up there. So characteristics which have been referred to by Bennis, one of the leading authors in this field, he has referred to as the characteristics of organization development as it is educational strategy, and this brings about and to bring about the planned change. It is related to real problems of the organization. It also relates to the lab training methods based on the experienced behavior and are primarily used to bring about change. Change agents are applying organization development techniques, and this is external to the organization. So there is a close working relationship between agents and the people who are being changed, and the relationship involves mutual trust, joint goals and means, and the mutual influence of each other. Is it clear? We are talking about, we have change agents, and how do we function in bringing about organization development activities. For example, and some of us, those who are teaching in this subject, doing research in this subject, Sometimes we are also invited by companies to become their change agent and to conduct some of these sessions about which we are going to talk just now. So change agents could be any consultant, any one working in the area of OD. So the change agents share the social philosophy about human values. They are humanists seeking to get a humanistic philosophy in organizations. Other thinkers have identified the following focal points for organization development programs. Other writers, there are many writers, they have been working in this area, and now I am talking about some other thinkers and writers. They have referred to organization and development as the organization design and formal organizational structure change in this area. Then the emphasis on role definition and job design, including managerial styles, has been emphasized by some other researchers and some other authors. Yet another group of researchers and thinkers, they have said all channel communication, information flows, informal organizations and culture are the theme for organization development. They also include employee attitudes, perception, values and motivation. Do I need to repeat these, because we have already done in the earlier part of the course, we have already discussed about values and attitudes and motivation and so on for managing the organization and people. So what we have to understand is, for organization development strategy, we have to analyze and understand and manage people and the system in terms of organization development using some of these strategies. So the important aspect here is that organizational output, improvement and productivity and overall performance are important when we are looking at OD strategy. So why organization development after all? This is because we would like to have some of the outcomes of OD, organizational outcomes, and some of these I have listed here. Okay, but there could be many more in terms of satisfaction, in terms of other issues of survival and growth. So organization development is a distinctive consulting method, we can say, distinctive consulting method. Organization development is also a process that focuses on organizational culture, processes, structure and utilizing a total systems perspective. An important aspect of organization development method is the action research model. And when we are looking at organization development, then action research becomes important. And some of the issues that we are going to discuss relate to action research are that organization development focuses on culture and processes. Specifically, organization OD encourages collaboration between organization leaders, members in managing culture and processes. Teams of all kinds are particularly important for task accomplishment and are targets for OD activities. team management. You must have heard about that. In fact, we have discussed that in some of the earlier discussions. OD also focuses on the human and social side of organization primarily, and is also it's doing so through the interventions in technological and the structural sides. Participation and involvement in problem solving and decision making at the people at all levels of the organization are the hallmarks of organization development. Participation. Do you recollect that we had done participative management at great length, and that becomes very important as a strategy for HRD in terms of organization development. Organization development focuses on total systems change and views organization as a complex social system. OD practitioners are facilitators, collaborators and co-learners with the client system. Remember, they are also the co-learners, because this is an ongoing activity, and so the managers and the experts and the consultants, those who are trying to achieve results through OD, because this is very much action oriented. So, this also gives them the opportunity of co-learning. Simultaneously, they are also learning, and we can say that an overarching goal, we can say, overreaching goal, we can say, of OD is to make the client system able to solve the problems on their own by teaching the skills and knowledge of continuous learning through self-analytical methods. So, in essence, when we are talking about OD, that is what I was also trying to emphasize in the earlier point, that we are also talking about continuous learning process, because this is not anything static that you teach today and then that ends. In fact, learning itself is a continuous process for us, for everyone, and here very consciously we are trying to create environment and conditions where there is a continuous learning, and often self-learning process is also evolved, and so self-analytical methods are important. OD views organization improvement as an ongoing process in the context of constantly changing environment. Perhaps some of the terms we are repeating in some ways, so that you understand that there is a continuous change. The environment is ever changing. Okay, it's not fixed. It doesn't remain where it was, because people change and things change, technology change, your buyers change, your collaborators change. So there are so many sources through which we are changing. So continuously we are all changing. OD relies on an action research model with extensive participation by the client system members. The action research, where we are conducting a research, but we are trying to bring about change, which is a continuous change, okay, and finally there is an outcome. So, OD takes a developmental view that seeks the betterment of both individuals and organization, attempting to create win-win solutions. That is the standard practice of the OD program. That is what we had discussed when we were discussing the issue of management of change. And when we say developmental view, management may have many types of views. Some authors have said that management could have just a strategic view, they could have a redefinition or the fusion of the old practices with the new practices, that kind of a view. And some have also said that management is developmental in nature. So, when we are trying to manage, we have to look at, of course, the strategic decisions, because we have to have the competitive advantage and we have to survive in today's competitive world, in the globalized world. At the same time, we have also to have a developmental view within an organization, and this aspect is dealing with the developmental view of management. So, some of the important characteristics of OD are that it is educational strategy, it is for organizational betterment, it is a comprehensive approach, it has behavioral emphasis, it is systems approach, based on systems approach. This refers to culture of maturity. External change agents are important. There are self-diagnostic skills which are again important. Renewal and regeneration is important. So, these were some of the points that I tried to make, in other words, the summary of what we had already discussed. So, the process of OD then is important, and there are number of steps. Formally, we can design the OD systems, and the steps in the process of OD have been indicated by different authors, and some of these are that first there has to be a problem identification, then we move on to the diagnosis, then the strategies, then the intervention, and so is it clear that first we have the identification of the problem, where do we really need the OD to be introduced. Okay. Then we have the strategies and then the intervention. And then intervention, when we are doing, there are number of recognized tools and techniques, and some of these are for the individual sensitivity or the lab training. For 2 or 3 people, it could be transactional analysis. Excuse me for my bad throat. Transactional analysis, have you heard about? Transactional analysis, we had touched upon transactional analysis earlier when we were talking about the interpersonal behavior and group behavior. This is the strategy when, do you recollect, we were talking about the ego states, the life philosophies and the transactions, and how could managers become good interpersonal behavior specialists using transactional analysis. So, when we have more than 2 or 3 people, and if we want to change their attitudes, perhaps we can use transactional analysis there. For teams and groups, we can have team building exercises. For intergroup relations, we can have confrontation meetings. Sometimes we can have the brainstorming sessions. Okay. For organization as a whole, we have survey feedbacks. And in fact, survey feedbacks have become extremely important, and in the recent years we have most of the organizations doing continuous surveys of their organizations to arrive at certain feedbacks and the need for change and need for OD strategies. Well, I had certain opportunities working with some organizations, and they are conducting every surveys every year to look into the kind of OD strategies that they might need. So they do say employ some of the outside agencies. Sometimes I was fortunate enough to be invited by some organizations, and so we conduct the survey feedback. The design of surveys we have already discussed when we were discussing the issue on the methodology just in the during the beginning part of the this course. So the same survey methodology that we had discussed, that we use here for the survey feedback. And for manager, the OD, perhaps the grid approach, which involves the evaluation and feedback, and the tools of evaluation are questionnaires, answers, interviews, meetings, conferences, discussions, and so on. And feedback should be in the form of a written report addressed to appropriate persons or groups. Okay, and doubts could be clarified through discussion. So the OD interventions are the most part of this is based on the action phase. Basically, at the end of organization development, we must have some concrete action. So the action phase becomes extremely important. It succeeds to the extent that it can utilize existing resources and promote self-direction and self-control among individuals and groups. There are different types of intervention tools, and French and Bell, they have classified them according to certain parameters. They have said that those designed to improve the effectiveness of individuals' life and the career planning, role analysis, coaching, counseling, education and training, sensitivity training, and so on. This is one group. They have also suggested that those designed to improve the effectiveness of diets and triads, 2 or 3 individuals, processes in the process consultation, the third party peacemaking, we can have that. Then those designed to improve the effectiveness of teams and groups, team building, survey feedback, process consultation, role analysis, education in group problem solving. Those designed to improve the effectiveness of intergroup relations are the intergroup activities, process consultation, survey feedback, third party peacemaking at the group level. Those designed to improve the effectiveness of the total organization are the confrontation meeting, strategic planning, and the survey feedback. So all these points we have already discussed, which are there, in the literature given by some other authors as well. But we thought, this is one of the important books that we had been referring to. So I thought, I'll refer to that as well. Then let us come to the issue of action research. Action research in the traditional sense means an investigation, an experiment ending up with something, that is research. So, but then in action research it is a very special type, and it is a type of applied social research differing from the other varieties and which is immediately of the researcher's involvement in the action process. So, you have the concrete involvement and perhaps the process, and it aims to contribute both to the practical concerns of the people in an immediate problematic solutions and the goals of the social science by joint collaboration within a mutually acceptable ethical framework. So, we have an action research and we have the concrete say result, and we design everything within that ethical framework. So, thus the action research bridges the gap between research and action, theory and practice, and the process in general comprises some of the steps like dissatisfaction with prevailing state of affairs, identification of the problem, formulation of the number of alternative course of action for solving the problems. Yes. Yes. So, selection of the best course of action. Yeah, as a manager you have to decide about all this yourself. So, selection of the best course of action, preparation of a program of action including tasks and subtasks. So, you have to very formally do that. Yes. Going into action in collaboration with the affected party, evaluation of results, feedback supplied to those concerned in the problem. There are on record many well known action researches in the industry. Well, I will just name a few which are available also in literature. Some of these I am going to mention here. See the first one, Jacques in Glacier. This is metals in England, very old though. This is one of the action researches. Then Mannin's collaboration with Rensis Likert in Detroit Edison Company of USA in 1957. Even this is quite old, but we have learnt a lot from these, and today we are doing many action researches. A.K. Rice conducted researches in the Calico Mills in Ahmedabad in India. That is again 1958 though, but lot of reference to this you will find in terms of the Indian studies, and lot of action research related theorizing was done well in India. Another study was White and Hamilton. This is in the Tremont Hotel in the US in 1968. These are the examples. Yes, I am trying to list some of the examples of action research which were successfully conducted in many organizations and are available in the literature on OD. Yes. Not that that is the exhaustive list of action researches. There are many more, and we continue to do that every day. But these are some of the well classical examples, and that is why we are listing them here. But there are many, and I am sure many of you will start doing some of these exercises very soon. So, the benefits of organization development, when we see the possible outcomes of organization development, have been summed up by George Strauss and Professor Sells, and they are saying that some of the benefits are: the outside consultant must have the participative and collaborative orientation. Okay. So, the benefits are of course many, and related to those benefits, some of the other benefits also we are trying to discuss. The members of the organization must be willing to collaborate as part of the organization development strategy. So, the benefits as well as the preconditions perhaps. There must be organization wide participation and open communication. Internal resources must be built up steadily. Too much dependence on the outside consultant has to be avoided, even though in the OD process, as we have seen, that the outside consultants are being invited by most of the organizations, but it is suggested that it is good, it will be better if we can do that in house. Then we also have to see that for organization development we have sufficient time. This must be allowed for organization development group to work out its programs, and there is no shortcut to organization development. The organization members should have necessary perhaps patience, and we come to the changing context now. The world is changing, and so are the most of the management issues that we are discussing, even though the main point, the main concepts remain there, but with the changing world there is a changing context, and so the changing context is giving us suggestion about the second generation organization development. We can say the new strategies or new type of organization development, and this is about interest in organizational transformation, because organizations are changing, people are changing, the world is changing, technology is changing, transformation is inevitable. And in the OD activity, if we are not paying attention to organizational transformation, perhaps we will not be in a position to achieve the best results. Interest in organizational culture, the culture is changing, there is a globalization, people are going into different countries, people from different countries are coming here, they are bringing their culture along with the technology that they are bringing to our country, which includes the issue of languages, the issue of communication, issue of some certain social ethos. So, whether we go abroad and we work in a globalized firm, or they are coming to India, the culture is changing, but side by side our internal culture is also changing. People, the new generation has new values, the new ethos, new expectations, new interests, and so when they are joining the organization, they are joining with a different kind of a philosophy. They need not be joining an organization with the idea that now I have got the job and all my life I am here. They can leave any time. So, the kind of organizational culture today we have, that is a great challenge. So, interest in learning organizations, the knowledge management, organizational learning, generating new knowledge for survival and growth. This becomes another important issue. In fact, at this point let me also add that some of our papers have been accepted and we have presented and we have been published in some of the international journals on the issue of organizational learning and HRD activities. And you can see the list in the bibliography, the references and bibliography that I am going to show at the end of the course. So, the interest of the teams that has to be intensified, the total quality management has to be looked into. We have discussed about this concept earlier, and the TQM becomes a movement, and when we are looking at the OD activity, we have to look into that as the new OD strategy. The TQM is important. And interest in visioning. We have also discussed earlier that we should have a vision, we should have a mission. So, the vision is our dream, and we should be looking at the OD also from the point of view of visioning. So, the rediscovering large meetings and getting the whole system in the whole system in a room is important for us. Other well directions and areas of interest are that values, assumptions and beliefs in OD are important, and a set of values, assumptions and beliefs constitute an integral part of organization development, shaping the goals and methods of the field and distinguishing organization development from other improvement strategies. So, von Venice proposed to the organization practitioners and the change agents share a set of normative goals based on their humanistic democratic philosophy, and he listed number of issues in this goal, which I will quickly go through before we close. And these are improvement in interpersonal competence, a shift in values so that human factors and feelings come to be considered as legitimate. The basic building blocks of an organization are the groups and teams, therefore, the basic unit of change are groups and individuals. And so, this is always relevant to change the goals and the reduction of inappropriate competition between parts of the organization and development and more collaborative conditions. So, with this we end our discussion on the organization development issues.